Hello and welcome to the USA Breaking News on 3rd June 2026. Senegal Parliament Speaker Sonko accuses President Faye of treating constitution as a personal property. A relationship between Senegal's top leaders have sharply deteriorated after National Assembly Speaker and Pastef Party leader Ousmane Sonko publicly accused President Diomaye Faye of attempting to treat the country's constitution as his personal property. Sonko made the remarks on June 29, 2026, shortly after lawmakers from the ruling Pastef Party submitted a constitutional amendment bill to Parliament. The proposed reform sparked fierce opposition from rival parties, including APR party of former President Macky Sall. Protests erupted outside the National Assembly where demonstrators accused Sonko of betraying his earlier promises to uphold the diplomatic institution and the rule of law. The unrest escalated as protesters blocked roads leading to Parliament in attempts to prevent lawmakers from entering to vote. Police responded by firing tear gas to disperse the crowds. Tension also flared inside the Parliament chamber after opposition lawmaker Abadou Mbow refused to leave the podium, demanding that the vote be suspended. Pastef lawmaker attempted to remove him by force before Sonko called on security officers to escort him out so the session could proceed. The constitutional amendment was ultimately approved by 129 of what they approved by 129 of the 165 lawmakers, paving the way for new constitution. However, a new dispute emerged when President Faye Chief Justice Minister Masusa announced that the reform would first be submitted to a national referendum before being signed into a law. Sonko strongly rejected the referendum proposal, accusing President Faye of deliberately obstructing Pastef's reform agenda. Does not belong to Diomaye Faye. How can one person decide what they like and what they don't? This is exactly what Pastef fought against for 10 years, making great sacrifice, and now the president has chosen to undermine those efforts. Sonko said the constitutional reform package seeks to amend 29 article of the existing constitution. Among the proposed change are banning the president from leading a political party while in office, expanding the powers of parliament, and the prime minister replacing the constitutional council with 9-member constitutional courts, and limiting the president's authority to dissolve parliament to once per presidential terms. Opposition lawmaker Thiero Arasanesal argued that the reform would give parliament excessive power over the presidency, leaving the president with a little choice but to rely on referendum to resolve political disputes. The glowing confrontation between Sonko and President Faye had been widely anticipated after Faye dismissed Sonko as a prime minister in May 2026. Shortly afterwards, Pastef lawmakers who hold parliament majority elected Sonko as a speaker of the National Assembly, further intensifying the power struggle at the top of the Senegal's government. Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has delivered proposed constitutional referendum bill to constitutional courts, a move that comes amid growing concern from the opposition that the reforms could pave the way for him to remain in power beyond the constitutional two-terms limit. Tshisekedi announced the decision on June 29, 2026 during his address, marking the 66th anniversary of the Democratic Republic of the Congo's independence after both chambers of parliament approved the draft prepared by his supporters. The Congolese leader said the Constitutional Court must first determine whether the proposed reform comply with the country's constitutions before he signed the bill into a law, describing the move as a demonstration of respect for state institutions and the separation of powers. Opposition group, however, argued that the primary objective of the constitutional amendment is to allow Tshisekedi to seek a third presidential term despite his current mandate ending in 2028. During a press conference in early May 2026, Tshisekedi stated that if Congolese citizens asked him to continue leading the country, he would accept. He also said that if the countries remain at war in 2028, national election would not be held. In a response, opposition parties formed a coalition known as C64 to campaign against the proposed constitutional change. The coalition staged the protest outside Parliament on June 12th and has announced another demonstration for July 8th. The planned protest is expected to take place outside the presidential palace, where opposition's leader and their supporters intend to accuse Tshisekedi of betraying the constitution and demand his resignation. Interior Minister Shaban also suggested that organizers and participants in the planned protests outside the presidential offices could face legal action, raising concern over escalating political tension in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The new legislation replaces the law that had governed Nigeria's identity management system for nearly 20 years and is aimed at strengthening national security, expanding digital inclusion, improving public services delivery, and supporting the country's digital economy. A key features of the act is the restructuring of the National Identity Management Commission (NIMC). It establishes strengthened government board comprising representatives from 14 major government institutions, including the Independent National Electoral Commission (NEC), Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), Nigeria Police Force, Nigeria Immigration Services, Department of State Services (DCC), Economic Financial Crime Commissions (EFCC), and other strategic agencies. The registration also raises professional standard for the commissioner's leadership, requiring the chairman to live at least 15 years of relevant experience and commissioners to possess minimum of 10 years experience while ensuring representation from Nigeria's sixth geopolitical zone. The law introduces significantly taller punishments for identity-related crime. Individual convicted of identity theft, impersonation, or unauthorized access to identity record or multiple registrations now faces a minimum prison sentences of 5 years, while corporate organization found guilty can be fined up to 20 million naira. The NIMC has also been granted expanded investigative powers subject to court approval, allowing it to investigate identity related to offenses conduct lawful searches, says in evidence disclosed digital information where authorized and arrest suspected offenders. Another major reform designates NIMC as a Nigeria's root certification authority, making it responsible for the country's national public key infrastructure and the digital public infrastructure. This will support secure digital signature, encrypted transaction identity verification, and authentication services across both government and private sectors. The act strengthened data privacy by aligning the country's identity management framework with the Nigerian Data Protection Act, ensuring citizens' personal information can only be proceeded with consent or lawful authorization and solely for its intended purpose. Under the new framework, the National Identification Number (NIN) will become mandatory for accessing a wide range of public and private services, including passports application, voter registration, banking services, telecommunication, land transaction, tax payment, insurance, consumer credit, and other government services. The government says the reform support its one person, one identity, one number policy designed to improve identity verification, eliminate deprecation, and streamline services delivery nationwide. The registration also introduces measures to improve inclusion by creating identifier system for vulnerable population and individual without permanent residence, while expanding identity services for Nigerian living abroad. A new general multi-purpose card will also be introduced, allowing citizens to use a single secure identity credential across government agencies, financial institutions, healthcare providers, and other services providers. President Tinubu described the enactment of the NIMC Act 2026 as a major milestone in Nigeria's digital transformation. It will help to build a more secure, inclusive, and technology-driven economy while strengthening public confidence in the country's digital identity system. That's all for now. Thank you for watching.